What's up, Packers fans? Aaron Nagler here. I am joined by the newest Cheesehead TV contributor, Wendell, and I will butcher this, Ferreira. How'd I do?
Yeah,
Is
it's
that close, Americanized version of how you pronounce your last name, Wendell?
yeah, it's perfect. Your Portuguese pronunciation is probably as good as my English one,
Oh,
so I think
stop.
we'll be fine.
You're 10 times better at English than I am anything close to
I'm
Portuguese.
not sure, not sure
Anyway,
about that.
thank
Let's
you
go.
so much for joining me today, man. I wanted to talk to you about a piece you wrote for another website about Jaire Alexander. But you see, what happens now is I will talk to you about it, and then I will put it on Cheesehead TV. So now, two pieces of content on separate websites. See, this is how the content game is
Yeah,
played, my friend. You wrote a piece about Jaire Alexander and the possibility of what that extension for Jaire might look like. And I'm sure that most people out there are aware. During the combine, I reported that the contract talks had begun between Jaire and the Packers. They had been waiting for things to develop with Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. Obviously, those things have now happened. What do you think, reading your piece in regards to Jaire and kind of the top five other corners in the league, especially obviously coming off of the Howard extension down in Miami? How do you think the Packers go about this? I mean, they'll have to make him the highest paid corner, won't they? I mean, considering his
yeah,
age and the level of his play.
yeah. I wrote a similar piece to some coverage before Aaron Rodgers extending his contract, and I did pretty well. I thought his cap hit would be 29 million. It ended up being 28 million this year. The 50 million per year average was spot on. This Jair piece was a little bit challenger for me because this new Xavier Howard contract is a little bit. It's not as clear as the other cornerback market indicates because it's a 2-year new deal and 25 million per year in new deal, the extension. So it might get the market for Jair a little bit higher, but it's kind of what happened with the DeAndre Hopkins and the Cardinals.
Right.
Xavier Howard had 3 years left on his old deal, so he added two new years to the deal, but it's a kind of a fake New Year's. So the Dolphins remade. They did a new contract, and it's actually a 5-year, 90 million contract. So cornerback market is not as high as you would think because the J.C. Jackson contract, for example,
Right.
it's a 16.5 million per contract, and it's in the open market. So I think Jair is not going to get 25, 26 million per year. I ended up with a number as low as 21 million per year. It's the highest paid corner in real money, but let's see if it ended up being true.
Well, it's interesting the fact that he is going into what is essentially his final year, which is the 5th-year option. And I think his cap hit's like just north of 13 million, or set to be, if he
Yeah.
plays on that. Do you see them? How many years do you think they go to with Jair if they get an extension? They've got a year in the hand, so to speak, with this 5th-year option. Do you see them going 3, 4? How many years out do you think they're going to try and get him kind of under control, so to speak?
The Packers don't like to make larger extensions, like 5 or 6 year extensions. We've seen with David Bakhtiari and Kenny Clark 4-year extensions, and that's the way I think they go with Jair as well, because a 4-year extension there will make him under contract for 5 years. As you said, they have 1 year left on his old deal, so I think they go there, 4-year extension, 5-year total, and he will be back in the market with at age 30. So I think it's okay for him as well.
Do you see him kind of maybe not trying to push the envelope, so to speak, but because of the fact, we know how good he is, right? He's one of the best, if not the best in the league, young guy still. But you look at kind of a glimpse of his potential in Joe Barry's defense. We obviously got kind of that first month and then missed the rest of the year. But even in that San Francisco game, when you have just a handful of snaps, you really saw his versatility. Does that enable maybe him and his representatives to kind of, like I said, push the envelope a little bit and say, hey, this is not just a Jalen Ramsey. This is not just a perimeter guy. This guy can truly do everything and not just travel with number ones, but he can play the star. He can rush the passer. He can help you out in the run game. Like, he is not only versatile, but multifaceted and dimensional. Does that enable him to maybe try to get a little bit more, so to speak?
I think Jaire is the kind of talent that is transcendental to scheme, as I could phrase it that way. He would play well in basically any scheme under any defensive coordinator. I think his role with Joe Barry might be pretty similar to what Jalen Ramsey does in Los Angeles, because Ramsey also plays basically from the star position, although he could travel with wide receiver one sometimes. I think Jaire would be the highest paid player anyway, because he's a young talent, and if you're trying to separate the most valuable players in the league, considering age and level of play, Jaire is up there with the top guys. So I think he will be well deservedly one of the highest paid players in the league.
I very much agree. We'll see the timing here. I mean, you have to think they'll be working through the offseason. I would suspect, my guess, and I don't know, I'd love to know what you think, most likely we see kind of an announcement, something leading up to training camp. You know how they love to get kind of good news headlines before camp, and considering all the drama and the headlines they dealt with the past year or so, you'd think they'd want something kind of uplifting heading into camp.
Yeah, and it's a different situation. I've seen some people compare his situation to Davante Adams. It's a totally different situation because he's going into his second contract.
Right. And
Davante Adams is almost 30 years old, so it's a different situation. I would love some draft day good news, because last year was rough.
Last year was rough. They owe us. That's right. They owe us.
But I think, I'm much in your side here. I think it will be something closer to the training camp, or maybe even into the preseason. But I think something will get done, because the Packers need the cap space. I think you can do his contract now, and if you don't use the cap, you roll over to next year. So I think something needs to be done now, and with parties. Jaire is a pillar for the future of the franchise, so I don't see why they wouldn't do it. He deserves to be paid, and he should be.
I absolutely agree. Wendell, I can't thank you enough for hopping on, giving us a few minutes to talk Jaire and the Packers, and thank you so much for joining us on CHTV, both as a writer and as video contributor now. Really thrilled to have you on board. Please don't be a stranger. Come back. Let's do this again and again and again. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. I love you guys. I've been watching the work that you guys do for so much long, and I'm really happy to be here and to be a part of the team. Let's go.
Thanks, Wendell. Have a great day.